the team structure in the office and the team structure at home are equally as important. Process flow at home, that's equally as important as a process flow at the office, because we're trying to do this at a high level. It's a consulting company that consults the top 35 originators in the US. People said to me or asked me, Matt, why would you do that? Why would you share everything that you do with other originators? And the answer to that is really simple.
You know, it is to show people and explain our journeys and to show people a better way. You just have to be able to leave ego at the door and take one step forward and trust your instincts.
But for the past, I want to say 3 years, your name kept popping up in our local market over and over again. And I said to myself, what is this guy doing?
Matt Weaver, the #1 mortgage originator in the United States for most loans closed in 2023 and #1 in the state of Florida from 2020 to present, has spent over 27 years mastering the purchase market, earning more than 16 #1 titles across his career. Max Fisch, 2024's #1 originator in the United States under 30 and #2 in the state of Florida, achieved those titles within just 5 years of entering the mortgage industry, compressing decades of growth into a few extraordinary years. Collectively, they've helped more than 40,000 families purchase their first home. Now partners and looking to improve the industry on a national scale, Matt and Max share their winning formula, team structure, and systems with originators who want to scale from elite to extraordinary levels.
I am sitting with a man they call Matt Weaver.
That's what my parents call me, so you're right. But I'm sitting with someone called Max Fisch.
Well, I mean, think about this for a second. How unbelievable is it that we're sitting here together? We're doing this.
By industry standards, it would be labeled as preposterous, ridiculous.
Completely ridiculous.
Well, considering that we were really top competitors with each other for probably the past 5 years. So yeah.
Trust me, I know. I was trying my best.
Yeah.
So
I had you running, didn't I?
We'll talk about that. So, I mean, before we get into the why, right, of why we're here, why we're doing this, I think it'd be appropriate to talk about how, first and foremost, because I want you to tell the story because it's an awesome story. And I want everybody to know how we're here, but also why you reached out to me, right? Other than the fact that I'm extremely handsome.
You know, I'm glad you think so. But you know, it's wild because the truth of the matter is that I don't really pay too much attention to what other originators do.
Mm-hmm.
But for the past, I want to say 3 years, your name kept popping up in our local market over and over again. And I said to myself, what is this guy doing? You know, I would hear from agents about you. I'd hear the quality of work that you did. And again, usually I don't pay too much attention, but I figured, you know, at this point in time, I'm going to have to find out a little bit more. So, you know, what did I do? I as you recall, I DM'd you on Instagram.
Wait. Let me stop you there.
Yeah.
I want for everybody listening to hear that Matt Weaver slid into my DMs.
Oh yeah. Well, I slid into your DM. And you know, I know that your youth, of course, lends itself to Instagram and social media. I'm trying to keep up with it, but you know, I DM'd you because I wanted to be cool. Okay. And if you recall, all I said to you was, I see you're doing great things. Would love to meet you one day.
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, about an hour later, I want to say you replied back saying, you know, much respect.
I was trying to be cool too, by the way, because I wanted to reply within like 5 seconds. And then I told myself, I'm like, I gotta wait a little bit to not be a weirdo.
So you did the casual hold on.
Yeah.
That was,
Made you wait a little bit.
that was smart of you.
Yeah.
So I just wrote back to you. If you recall, I wrote an address, a date, and a time. And I figured if I was going to go at someone like you, I might as well go at it in a different way, in an unorthodox way, because how many recruiters are reaching out to you per day? I thought to myself. And, you know, hey, I want to meet with you and get to know you a little bit more, and all that fun stuff was just
Tons.
I think it was just would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I if you recall, I wrote an address, a date, and a time. And much to my surprise, about an hour later, you said, "I'll see you there," which was really interesting considering the fact that we've never spoken to each other.
It's a little psycho.
It's psycho.
Yeah.
We never met. And then that day came. But what was really funny is the day before we were supposed to meet, ding, the little DM message comes up and it's you. And I said to myself, okay, he's going to cancel.
Yeah.
But what you wrote there was, can you at least text me from your cell phone just so I can confirm you haven't been hacked?
That's a real thing, by the way. I was like, Matt Weaver's been hacked.
Oh, yeah. But who's going to kidnap a 6'3", 250-pound guy? I mean, come on, let's be real. So I laughed at that, and I texted you from my cell phone, and you said, okay, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
So you came to Star Island. We met in Miami, of course, the owner's house.
Yeah.
And you knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and I didn't realize, for God's sake, how big you really were. Okay. Because I really wanted to get at you, but then I saw your size, and I said, oh my gosh, this guy could strangle me.
Well, good thing I wasn't there to wrestle.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we sat. We were there with Ron.
Yeah.
Okay, the owner of Cross Country, and we sat around his table and we talked. And I could tell immediately that we had a very similar mindset. I could clearly see, to be very direct, I could clearly see myself in you, in the sense of a burning desire to win at a different level.
Yeah.
A burning desire to serve agents to a different level. And when I saw that, you weren't there to talk about interest rates or loan products. You were there to talk about how, if we did anything, can we succeed in this mission further? So that was, of course, of interest to me. And I think, we met 2 or 3 other times after that, and the synergy was extraordinary. And I have to say, you're probably one of the fastest decision makers I think I've ever met. Have you always been like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to decision making, I think that people want time because they approach it with a pessimistic point of view.
Right.
Right? Like they want time to talk themselves out of the decision that they initially wanted to make.
Right.
Right. And so, for better or for worse in my life, and I think more oftentimes for better, I'd like to think.
Yeah.
My initial instinct has always been to make a decision, right, instinctually, and kind of go with that.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. But you can't play Monday morning quarterback. You kind of have to just go with your decision. But the longer that I've waited to make decisions, the more I find that I'm always talking myself out of the initial decision I wanted to make. It's kind of like when you're taking a test. They say when you go back and you're checking all your answers, you're going back and you're second guessing yourself.
Right.
Right. And so you change your answer, and the first answer was typically the right choice, because now you're thinking too much into it. So it's not that I don't like to think through the things that I do and the decisions I make, but sometimes I find, actually most of the time, that your initial instinct will lead you down the right path. So with you, it was more so, listen, I knew from afar what you all were doing here, right? I didn't know the inner workings of it, and we'll get into that, right? But I knew that your mission was the same as mine, to your point, which was, how can we serve the real estate community better, right, in our market, and in markets beyond too. And the thought of partnering up to kind of put our minds together, which I think is why this is so cool, is, we both have had different paths. You've obviously been in the industry a lot longer, 25 years?
27.
27.
Just, that's what, you're only 3 years older than how long I've been doing mortgages.
Yeah. I was thinking about other things back then.
Just a little bit.
27 years. So for me, being in it 6 years, I think we can just empathize with other originators in this business, and really anybody in this business that comes from different stages.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think is why this is so cool.
What was really striking to me, though, was the fact, and if you recall, I said this to you, I want to say actually on our first meeting and at our second meeting when we were thinking about merging together, was the fact that of being 30 years old, okay, and really succeeding at a high level. Of course, I was still beating you at that point.
Yeah.
You saying to yourself, why would I ever want to do something with him? I'd rather just beat him rather than do something together. And I remember saying to you, listen, at 30 years of age, I probably would not have done something such as merge like we did. I probably wouldn't have had the foresight and have been smart enough to make that decision. So it's really impressive that you did that.
Well, thank you.
And so here we are today. We have two great brands that came together. What's so extraordinary about it is that you came over with over 20 people on your staff, and now they've complemented each other so well. My staff integrating with yours, and I think we're what 45 days into this. It seems like we've been together for a decade.
I know. And what's interesting is, and I think this is important. I think this is important for people to hear just in general, in any stage of life and in any industry. When considering making the move, to your point, a lot of people wouldn't do what I did, especially at my age, and my business was continuing to soar, right? And I say that, respectfully and humbly. It's important because as I was considering my decision and partnering with you, the only reason why I could, I guess, talk myself out of it and tell me that it wasn't a good choice to do that was because of my ego. And I realized that is never a good enough reason to make a decision.
Yeah, but I mean, you know how many people, especially at your age, realize that that's never a good reason?
No, I mean, it's very unique, and I can recognize that. I'm self-aware enough to understand that. But when ego drives your decisions, that's when you start going off the path, off script.
Right.
Right. And so it made too much sense logically to make that decision. And that's why I ultimately did it.
I mean, part of it, I think we can both agree, was also just recognizing how broken the origination space really is at the end of the day.
Well, I think, and that's a really good point, because when you talk about coming over and uprooting 20 people, right? You're thinking about their situation, their lives. You're constantly every day, and you know this as a leader, you're not just concerned about yourself. Actually, you're less concerned about yourself on a daily basis, and you're more concerned about the people that you're leading, right? And so when I'm looking at the landscape of the people that came over and the people that have really trusted their livelihood in me, right? Which is something you've been dealing with for decades. You really have to vet a situation and make sure that it's going to be good for them. Because I woke up every day going into the office and hearing their conversations and feeling their stress, right? Feeling their anxiety. Because again, as a leader, you're taking on your shoulders the anxiety of others, right? How am I going to pay my next bill? How am I going to put food on the table? Those types of things. And what I've experienced in my short time in this business to that point, you've experienced it a lot more than me, but what I've experienced is that for an originator, that's a hard life. And when you talk about the system being broken, not knowing where the next referral or the next transaction are constantly in this wheel of doing a bunch of different things, right? Because you go from, potentially being an employee somewhere with a different mindset, or you go from owning another type of business to now you're owning a business, you're in sales. You also have to have an analytical mind. You have to do all of these things. You have to have an artistic mind to be able to do marketing and do a million different things, which is something that I experienced. And my people experienced it too.
I don't know if there is another career where you have to have that many different personalities all coming together as one. So that's why I've been saying now for many years that the origination cycle is broken. And the lifestyle of an originator is broken, which leads us here to this podcast here today.
Yeah, which is why we're doing this.
So which is one of our main motivating factors of doing this. I mean, we've called it Originate for Life. So it's exciting to be here today. It's exciting to share some insight with originators, all in an effort to try and enhance and enrich their lives. We come from different levels of experience, but we complement each other so well, you being a little closer to some things than myself being a little closer. But at the end of the day, if we can change one or two originators' lives out there, I think we're succeeding at a high level. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so let me just share from my perspective why I'm super excited about why we're doing this, right? Which is because so quick background, right? You know this, but I'll just share again. I came from a teaching background. I came from a coaching background. I wasn't always, I actually wasn't raised in business at all. Never really understood it. Wasn't trained on sales. Just understood how to work hard, right? And that was it. And so, coming out of college and becoming a teacher and a football coach, actually, here's what I've taught you, right? I don't know if I've ever told you this. K through 8 PE, 7th and 8th grade math. I was the athletic director at a school, okay? At a school that wasn't really set up to have sports yet. So I'm like outside picking up rocks before soccer games so kids don't hurt themselves, right? And so that's what I was doing straight out of college. And quite honestly, that's what I was going to do, right? I was going to stay in sports and stay in athletics. And I got married at 24. And so I remember this, and I always make a point to share this story. My wife looked at me and she said, we were talking about our passions and our goals for our life. And she said, my passion and my goal is to be with our children, right? Our future children at that time and raise them, right? Be at home and help raise them and really dive into their lives from, day zero and on. And, I looked at her and I said, unfortunately we might not be able to make that happen with my career choice and living in South Florida. And so what happened is she looked at me. This bothered me at the time, made me angry. She looked at me and said, you'll figure it out. That's what she said.
Well, that's a great way to challenge you.
Yeah. And so I was like, at the time, I'm like, what does she mean? I'll figure it out. I started talking to myself, like walking away.
Yeah.
And then as I thought through it, I was like, well, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started to research. So I was always math oriented and always social. Like I wanted to be social, right? And so I was like, what can I do? What career can I do that combines the two? And so I was thinking about accounting and I want to sit in a cubicle in an office. I didn't know if I wanted to do that. So I took the mortgage test online. And this was about 5.5 years ago. I took the mortgage test online and I passed. And so I just jumped into this business, right? But what I quickly realized, to your point, was how many hats you have to wear to be successful in this business.
Right.
So I started year after year after year doing these things. Like in the last 5.5 years, I feel like I look back, I'm 30 years old. I feel like I've lived like a lifetime, right? In the past 5 years. And what's interesting is now being to where I've gotten, and listen, I not acting like I've arrived, but I look back on it and I say, you know what? I really have a heart for sharing this story, talking about the inner workings of what I was able to accomplish in a short period of time, just as you've been able to, become the nation's top originator, right? But I want to share that with people because I know for a 100% fact that there are thousands of originators across the country that are experiencing this like blocked in feel, no way out, this broken, tough, hard process.
Right.
And so for me, my heart is I want to share that. I want to share that path.
Well, you said you wanted to make impact when we first originally met.
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
And you echoed that.
Right.
And so I'm sure that's why you want to share as well, even though our paths have been a little bit different.
And talk about different. I mean, we've spoken about this. My educational level really stops at 8th grade. So in 9th grade, basically the school I was going to, the high school I was supposed to go to, just asked me politely if I could just leave. So I ended up, of course, dropping out at 9th grade. My parents, my father, may he rest in peace, was not a happy camper at all about that. But he accepted it. He understood. I had and still have an extraordinary mother, but I just recognized that finances, was challenging within the household I was living in. So I felt like I didn't have the time to go to school. I felt like I wasn't relaxed enough to go. I felt that in order to do great things in school and go to college, you had to be a little bit more, calm or comfortable with your environment, which I just wasn't. So I ended up getting my real estate license at age 18. Okay, and I started selling real estate from age 18 to 21. And it was interesting because as I was selling real estate, I was selling it through financing. And there was a mortgage guy that would always come in and he would talk about these programs, 0 down, 1% down.
Yeah.
And back then, this is 1998, 99. Okay, home prices were, you could buy a townhouse in Boca Raton for $85,000. So I'm thinking to myself, you can buy this for $850 down, $700, $800, $900 a month. I mean, how do people not know about this?
Yeah.
So I would take classified ads out. You probably don't
What's
even
that?
know what a classified ad is exactly.
Yeah.
They're in newspapers. Newspapers would make your fingers dirty. I don't know if you knew that either.
Newspaper.
Yeah, newspaper. So that's how. So I would sell at least 1 to 2 units a week. I became Coldwell Banker's #1 salesperson.
Wow.
At age 19. I was petrified of my age. I grew out a beard just like you have. Okay, because I was so nervous of people asking me how old I was. I mean, who wants to deal with someone at 19
Yeah.
when they're looking to buy a home or sell a home? At age 21, I met this mortgage person who would come in and present all the time, and he said, "You're in the wrong business." And I got to know him very well, he and his partner, out of Coral Springs, Florida, and they brought me over to the mortgage side, and I've been here ever since. So the irony, Max, is you're the only teacher I'm actually listening to, because I didn't do well
Yeah.
through high school, of course, because I didn't last. But here we are today, and I want to share with the group, the trials and tribulations, because the truth of the matter is that it was really in 2010 in my career path. It was when my wife and I, my wife Nadia, and I were expecting our first child, Alexander. And I got to tell you something. I'm sure you have a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay, Beckham. But when you know you're having a child, and then of course when that child comes, there's a fire that ignites even further than anyone can imagine for those that have kids. And it was in 2010. I'll never forget it. I sat with my wife, I sat with my mother, I sat with my father. And this is before Alexander was born. And I said, "I'm asking you permission if I can go all in on my business." Because I knew, of course, having a newborn, I'd have to have certain team members in place at home. My wife was still working at the time, so that means my mother would have to step in. And if my mother couldn't step in, that means my father would have to step in, or my mother-in-law would have to step in. But it was in 2010 that I wanted to build out an infrastructure, because I knew as an originator, doing all the parts of the origination cycle was a broken lifestyle. It was a terrible lifestyle. So I was just determined to build out a cycle, or a team structure, I should say, a system that was able to facilitate the transactions while I do the part that I'm supposed to do, which is serve the agent to a high level.
Yeah.
So here we are today, 2025, 15 years later, a lot of gray hair later, but I had a lot of fun in building it. I'm continuing to have a lot of fun, and here we are. So
you know what's interesting about what you just said?
tell me.
So first off, I think that this is, and this doesn't necessarily have to do with mortgage. This is just, a family dynamic and a support system dynamic,
Yeah.
which is, I feel like that when you want to embark on an endeavor like you did in 2010, like I did in 2020, right? The support system is so important.
Oh,
right.
I mean-
You just mentioned, I had a sit down conversation with my wife and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm going all in on this," right? Because you have your goals that you shared with me. You've mentioned, "Hey, I trust that you're going to figure it out." So I'm figuring it out.
That's right.
Right. And this is what I'm going to do, because I think we've realized that you and I are pretty similar. And when we put our mind to something, we just kind of go
That's
all
right.
in.
Yes.
Right. And so I feel like that if you're going to go all in on something, especially when you have an expecting child, or you have children and you're married and you're doing these things, and even if you're not married, you have friends, it's important to have these transparent conversations, right? Because there's there's going to be times where people are, wondering why is he so obsessed with this? This is a word they throw around: obsession, determination, what motivates, right? And so rather than ask all those questions and kind of just selfishly make a decision and go full steam ahead, I think what I just gathered most about that story was you pretty much gathered the troops of your support system and said, this is something I'm going to do. This is why I'm doing it. So that they could kind of
Oh,
rally around you in a sense.
without a doubt. I
You
mean,
know?
the team structure in the office and the team structure at home are equally as important.
Yeah.
So, as an example, I mean, today, my son Alexander is in high school, ninth grade. My daughter Stella, okay, she's in middle school, 6th grade. So, of course, if they need something during the day, of course, mom is the default. If mom's not there, my mom is the second,
Yep.
or my mother-in-law is the second or third, whatever it may be. But there's a process flow at home that's equally as important as a process flow at the office, because we're trying to do this at a high level.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to do it at a high level, you need to have both operating the same way.
Yeah.
So the support level at home can either assist you in getting to where you want to get to if you're looking to succeed at a high level, or can really take you down.
Yeah.
So it's so important, and it's something that I know that because it was interesting. When we were watching you, okay, I knew you were almost
creepy.
You're the creepy one. Right? Oh, the creepy one. But we knew that. I remember we were saying, as we were talking about you a little bit prior to me reaching out to you,
Mm-hmm.
we said, okay, so it seems like he's doing a lot of the functions. You were in the origination cycle, I think, at the highest level.
Yes.
And I said, this guy's going to hit some level of burnout. But I remember I immediately said, if he's married and he has a child at home, he must have one incredible wife and support structure at home, because operating at the level that you were operating at as a single originator only means one thing: your home life was sound.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, let's piggyback off of the being transparent, right?
Yeah.
So my wife and I sat down when I first started. Actually, you know what? When we first started,
There you go.
I'll call it that. When we first started on this journey, we sat down and we talked about what this could potentially look like, right? And my friends have always made fun of me because my entire life, bringing back the word obsession, right? I would get obsessed with things. So like for example, when I was little, I really wanted to learn how to do a Rubik's Cube. So like people didn't see me for 3 weeks until I figured it out. Maybe I'll do it on this.
Can you still do a Rubik's Cube?
Yeah. Maybe I'll do it while we're talking next time. But I really wanted to figure it out. So, instruments or whatever it is that I was learning, I really wanted to get really good at it. Right. And so when we first started this, we sat down and I said, okay, here's how we're going to look at this. Okay. We're going to look at this like a professional athlete's career. You have your prime, you train, you work hard, you're away some nights, you're X, Y, and Z. Right. And we're going to do this. I started at 25 years old and I said, I'm going to do this until 35 and I'm going to go hard at it. And we're going to do this together. But I want you to know.
You gave yourself a shelf life.
Yeah. And I want you to know, and I hope that you can support that. And obviously she did. And so that was my plan. I'm 30 now. And, my plan was really, I can only do this until I'm 35.
Right.
So if you would have waited a bit longer, I would have been out of the game in 5 years anyways.
There you go. But now your shelf life extended.
Tremendously.
Right.
Because let's talk about, you said something that's interesting. So in 2010, you wanted to build out a process. Right. Here's what happens with a lot of originators, in my opinion, myself included. You dive in, right, and you want to drum up business however you can, create relationships, provide X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. We have the lowest rates, right? Like those types of things. But what the industry as a whole is lacking is process. It's process. right? You can drum up a lot of business, and there's a lot of band-aids that you can put on to to portray to the outside world that everything is all hunky-dory, right, without a set process.
Right.
But you went at this business in an interesting way, which was, I'm going to create a process, right? Still obviously relationships, in while doing so, right? But I think that you understood that people are attracted to process. And that is what creates longevity in this business.
Yes.
Is the process.
Yes.
Right? Because whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is for anybody, I can tell you from experience that to do this at a high level, you will burn out.
Right.
You will.
Correct. I mean, having a process and system allows you to have a sustainable lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it also gives you consistency, which is what the agent and the home buyer deserve.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take a look today, I call it the origination cycle and how the origination cycle is broken. Yeah. You have originators that have to prospect. They have to take applications. They gather documents. They review documents. They consult home buyers. They have to run and do a one-on-one coffee appointment. Then they have to work with processing and underwriting. I mean, so many different lanes, okay, that originators sit in on a daily basis. And what happens is it's a trap. Yep. They're caught in it. Okay, it's very difficult to get out. All right. And then it turns into making decisions like how you had the smarts to say, wait a minute, maybe I should put like a 5 or a 10-year limit on this, because you recognize it wasn't a sustainable lifestyle. But what if you were able to build a process, a systematic flow? I say to originators all the time that more calls should equal more revenue and not more work.
Sure.
And for 99% of originators, more calls equal more work. And then, of course, more revenue, but it's more work. Yeah. And that's not the area of life you want to be in. So when we talk about originate for life and the name of this podcast, I mean, some may take it as I don't want to be originating for my life or for all my life.
Yeah.
Right? It's originate for life.
Yeah.
It's building a system. It's being part of a system that gives you life back. Because as we all know, life is virtually the most precious asset we could ever own.
Yep.
And there is possibility of winning at an extraordinary level and also living life at an extraordinary level.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be doing both. And it's great that we merge together, because I'm seeing that you're also now doing both.
Proof of life.
Proof of life. You are the proof of life. So it's a great blend.
Yeah.
But, so when we think about this for originators, the main motivation is to share with them that this is possible for you too.
Yeah.
And to think about the business a little bit differently.
Yep.
We get caught in the transactional mindset, which is a mindset that, keeps you in that cycle where you don't systematize yourself. And as we know, it is important to systematize yourself both at home, as we just talked about, and of course in the office.
Yeah.
I knew if I could control my own infrastructure from beginning to end, okay, from the point of, hi, I'd like to get pre-approved, all the way through to funding and all the micro steps in between. If I could make that the same way each and every time, just like the burger tastes the same at McDonald's each and every single time,
Yeah.
Then I knew that I could duplicate what it is that I'm doing and take it to a higher level and do the part that I love to do, which is the rainmaking part, the relationship building part.
Sure.
So that's what we have been able to do here. And so now what we're looking to accomplish is we keep adding to the team structure. Okay, I mean, compliantly, we're a branch. That's the technical definition. But as you know, we operate as a team structure. We're like one gigantic basketball team.
Yeah.
And we're in harmonious flow. So how one does one thing affects the other teammate, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a lot of fun. Like I said, we're 45 days into this, you and I, and it feels like we've been together for a decade.
I know. So let's talk about your process.
Yeah.
Right? Because here's what's unique about all this. in my short time in this business, in this industry, I've realized that this industry is very like dog eat dog, right? Like originators don't do this.
No.
Right? They don't talk to each other. They're not sharing what they're doing, which I've always found interesting because let's just take real estate agents, for example. They'll like go out to dinner together.
I know.
Like at different companies, and they're having events and they're all there. Could you imagine us trying to get like 30 of the local originators in a room and just like so we can have lunch and hang out?
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
No.
And a lot of that has to do with ego. But what I find so unique about what we're doing, right, is in more so what you've done and are doing, is that you've been so open to share what you started building 15 years ago. And that's very, very unique and unorthodox, right? To do that. And so and I want you to speak to that, but one of the things that you told me one time, and in 45 days I've learned a lot, right? Is you told me that your best competition is always internal and not external, right? And that concept of, being pushed and finding new ways to be motivated to be better, right? And so I'm just curious as to that thought process, right? Sure. Like if you want to share that, because I think it's really good.
Well, I have the good fortune of saying, and I say it with full humility, that I hit number one here in the state of Florida for 5 straight years as an originator for both units at volume.
Yeah.
Going to be year number 6 here at the close of 2025.
Yeah.
I also hit most closed transactions for 2023 in the nation against all originators and companies. The other reason I start there is because you have to keep pushing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep pushing yourself to want more and more championships. We call them championships. So we use, as you know, a lot of sport metaphors here. Okay, as we said, we're one big basketball team, and when we win in the state of Florida, it's a championship ring in the nation, etc. But we have to keep pushing ourselves to get to the next level, and the best way of doing that is sharing. You see, what ends up happening is that as you share, you now have to create faster. You have to be better faster. So I rolled out F13 Consulting. It's a consulting company that consults the top 35 originators in the U.S. virtually. I mean, they're number 1, 2, or 3 in their respective states. And people said to me or asked me, Matt, why would you do that? Why would you share everything that you do with other originators? And the answer to that is really simple. I do it so I can make myself better, my process better. I got to tighten everything up, because if I'm giving it to them, they want to win. They want to beat me. Okay. And I'm creating my own competition. And so there's something that's really, really fun and exciting about it. I know it sounds sick. I guess winning is sick. We know that. So I've just found it here now with just using F13 as an example. We're 2 years into that program, and I can tell you that we're creating more value propositions faster as a team structure than ever before, because we're sharing everything that we do with our competition. Mm-hmm. So you and I partnering, I mean, think about that. 2 of the closest competitors in the state of Florida meet and say, we can continue competing. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. Or we can use logical thinking, check ego at the door, and say, well, what if we just did this together? How much further can we win? So joining together isn't 1 + 1 is 2. It's 1 + 1 is 75, maybe even 100.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, when you think about doing it to that level, it's a whole lot of fun, but we need to create our own competition, okay, to make ourselves better.
You're a little bit of sicko, aren't you?
Oh, equally as sick, as you.
You have to do have to be what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, when you have big goals, You got to be a little sick.
Oh, you got to be. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And so you know what's funny is I feel like a lot of time, and again, this is just like, this isn't just our industry, right? But a lot of times equate, how much people equate how much you're working for, positive results. Meaning, like, people think there's a direct correlation, right? To say, I work 13 hours. Why is the X not happening?
Right.
Or I've worked 10 hours. Why is Y not happening?
Right.
Right. A day. And what's interesting about that concept is, and what we're kind of talking about as we start talking about Originate for Life, is it's not bad to work a lot of hours, right? There can be a direct correlation there, but just because you're working a lot of hours doesn't mean they're A, productive, and B, effective.
Correct.
Right? Because I was finding myself, obviously I got to a certain level and across the country fairly quickly, right? I think, about a month ago, they informed me that I was the top originator in the country under 30 years of age, right? And people will say, well, why does the under 30 years of age matter? Like, why is that? That's a weird statistic, right? And it's because, number one, it's very, very hard to ingratiate yourself into this business. A lot of high performing people have been doing it for 10 to 15 years, right? And number two, it's hard to understand how to not only govern yourself and motivate yourself on a daily basis, especially in sales, but also as you grow out a team structure, how can I effectively lead a team of people that are 10, 15, 20 years my senior, right? So it goes into a lot of personal development. Are you spending your time in personal development, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not in the loan business, really. We're in the people business, right? And loans is the medium in which we reach people,
Yes.
right? And originations are the medium in which we reach people. And so what are we doing with those hours? And where are we focusing our time? And a lot of things the term that comes up a lot in our conversations is singleness of purpose, right? And I feel like that in the system, again, as we get into we start talking about Originate for Life, it's about lanes, right? Staying in your lane. And so over time, what have you seen on that front?
Oh,
I'm just curious.
I mean, I've said for years, my competitive advantage has always been singleness of purpose. Singleness of purpose is the key to production. Number one, I know exactly who my customer is, which is the real estate agent. Now, I know a lot of people will say that, okay? But when I say that, what I'm referring to is every part of our process is built for the agent. So when you firmly understand that the agent is your customer, then you build process and procedure around the customer.
Yeah.
We don't look at ourselves the same as the agent. Okay, we're not on equal playing fields. They are the customer. Okay, so as an example, if you go to a restaurant tonight with your lovely wife and you sit down, the server knows that you're the customer, so they're going to treat you a little different than palling around with you, aren't they? Because it's inappropriate to pal around with you because you're a customer. So we have that understanding of who our customer is, number one, when it comes to singleness of purpose. But then when we take a look at our team structure that was developed over the past 15 years, it's my belief that originators have a singleness of purpose in terms of they are passionate about one of the lanes in the origination cycle, not all of the lanes in the origination cycle, which is what they have to do every day. So if you take a look at our team structure today, it's broken into multiple lanes, and each individual is succeeding within that individual lane at an extraordinary level, both through self-actualization, meaning accomplishing what it is that they set forth to do. Financially, they're succeeding at an extraordinary level, well above industry norm and average, because they're in that single lane, that singleness of purpose. We cannot be great doing everything. It's not possible. Okay. There are individuals that are great at home buyer consultations. There are individuals that are extraordinary at rainmaking. There are individuals that are incredible at reviewing documents and coming up with solutions. But these are all the various lanes within the team structure, no different than positions on the court or on the field in football, just like you coached.
Yep.
So we take that so seriously. And so if you take a look at our team today, I'd say the average team member has been with me for 9+ years. Most of my original core, dating back 15 years ago, are still with me. I have the good fortune of saying that. So they just stay until retirement because they're staying in that lane, they're focused in that lane, and they're doing it to an extraordinary level.
Yeah, and that's interesting, right? Because tying it back to why I mentioned, me starting and being in my 20s is because I really focused on the people aspect of it, the personal development, but that can only get you so far. You need to have process, which is why we're partnering together, right? We're talking about it. But you need to have process and you need to have singleness of purpose. My singleness of purpose early on in my career was, like I said, personal development in relationships, right? The process though is so important. And you want to know what another thing is where I find so interesting? And we are both like this because we've talked through this before. My motivator when I first started in the last 5 years, and your motivator has never been money.
No, never.
It's never been money.
Never.
Money's a byproduct.
Yeah.
Right? And we talk about that all the time. And it's so important because I think that when you can get into a mindset where legacy transcends your financial gain, right? What legacy are you leaving behind?
Right.
What do people remember you as? What do people look at you as
Exactly
in present day?
Oh,
right? And what are your thoughts on that? I mean,
yeah,
I know you agree.
Listen, I wanted my son and daughter, to see that their father took what it is that he's done in the industry that he's chosen and have done it to an extraordinary level. So I wanted to prove to my kids that you can be number one at anything you choose in life. And that was my number one motivational factor. It sounds so cliche about it's never about the money. But it is, whoever is listening, it is the dead honest truth. It has never been about the money. It has been about winning at an extraordinary level through good quality service above and beyond what the customer deserves or expects, which is the agent. So if you take a look at our value propositions of what we do for our agents, it exceeds the norm. Probably, I don't say this in a braggadocious way, probably 20-fold, because I believe they deserve that much more above and beyond.
Yep.
Okay. So when we think about it, we talk about legacy. We talk about leaving a mark in the industry. I can say this to the originator that's listening today. I hope they believe they can do it too.
Yep.
Okay, because I already know they can. See, there's the difference. Because if little old me that dropped out of high school, I'm not the smartest or the sharpest tool in the shed, whatever the expression goes.
Mm-hmm.
If I can do it, they can do it. You had extraordinary levels. Now, partnering together, it's going to go even further in what it is that you do. You're going to be able to share with Beckham, that young boy of yours at 2 years old, and as he grows, you're going to show him how you're going to be winning these titles year over year, etc., and what you're accomplishing. Now, what does that do in terms of, tell me that doesn't transcend money.
I mean, you're going to make me jump out of my chair. There's not enough room in here. Like, I mean, if that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know. So really, all of this packaged up is really why we're doing this.
That's right.
It is to show people and explain our journeys and to show people a better way.
Yes.
Right. There is a way out in this business. And you just have to be able to leave ego at the door and take one step forward and trust your instincts.
Yes.
Right. Because that's how you get to an extraordinary level in this industry. And I always wondered as an originator from the outside looking in, how you've been able to do this for so long and get to the level that you did. And that's not to boost your ego. That's just to share. That's the facts. That's the reality. Right.
Sure.
And from what I'm hearing, what I've heard, being partnered with you for the last couple months, it's only because of all the things that we're talking about.
Only.
Right.
That's right.
Singleness of purpose, legacy, process, and the list goes on and on.
There's a lot of ingredients in the soup. And what we want to do here is we want to really open all of those ingredients, because the reality is that there's just so many out there that can do the same. It would bother me, genuinely, sincerely, it would really bother me for someone who's going home tonight in this great industry that we're in, and them actually believing they can't. That just bothers me. And my only hope here is through this, we'll say, mechanism or podcast or however we want to call it, we can hit that person, even if it's just one, to think a little differently.
I got to tell you, I'm excited for this.
We're going to do it one way or another. Or at least signed up to do it.
Well, I think that's I think that's a pretty good explanation as to why we're doing this, and there's many more things to come and a lot more information to share. So I'm looking forward to doing it with you, man.
Let's continue winning.